Today we're going to talk about Greystone Park, a film by Sean Stone, the son of Oliver Stone, Oliver Stone being the director of Wall Street and Wall Street Money Never Sleeps. I do highly recommend those two films. Oliver Stone, when he is directing films in that niche that he knows well, it's a good movie. Now the question is his son up to par? Well, Greystone Park is a horror movie, found footage style, and it's very low budget. I wouldn't exactly call it entirely indie, but then it might even feel indie. I've watched plenty of found footage films, and honestly, I could say I have a soft spot for them. I enjoy plenty of found footage films. I've got all of the Paranormal Activity movies. I enjoyed Cloverfield. There's The Pyramid I enjoyed. There's a thing called Chernobyl Diaries. That's a good one. The Project Almanac. That's a good one. But bottom line, I watched a lot of found footage films, and there's a bunch of dollar bin found footage films. A couple of them are on this channel. One of them being Followed, and another one being Lured. Both of them highly rated by me, highly recommended. I really enjoyed those movies. Greystone Park, I would say, is below both of them. I wouldn't say it's better than either one of those dollar bin movies, though I would say it might be worth the dollar if you find it, or it might even be worth watching it for free if you can find it on streaming. Well, I say for free if it's like on something that you're paying for, like Netflix or whatever. If you're already paying for it and you find it, it's worth the watch. That's it. That's the thing I'm saying. It's not worth actually getting a subscription just to watch this movie, but if you already have it, is what I mean. You know. Anyways. Greystone Park, inspired by true events. The only thing it's inspired by is the fact that Greystone Park is something that exists. It's a real place. It's in New Jersey, and it is an asylum that was built in the 1800s using the design plan by Kirkbride. Trying to find the man's full name for a second here. It's using the Kirkbride plan. Here we go. Thomas Story Kirkbride, born in the early 1800s, died in the late 1800s. He was the man who came up with the Kirkbride plan, which is a sort of blueprint design for how many of the 1800s psychiatric asylums were built. You had very symmetrical, wide rather than deep type of buildings. What do I mean by wide? Well, you have the main entrance, right, and then you could look to your left and you look to your right, and you'd see that it's rather long. Now, if you went to the far right of the right wing, and you stood facing the right wing, that is, you're no longer facing the entrance, but you're facing the right wing from the right side, you would see that the building is rather thin. Now that's what I mean. But that's how they built a lot of these things back in the day. And it's pretty interesting. And that's as far as the whole inspired by true events extends. This is a spooky horror movie, though, as you can see by the cover. Though I would not say that the spookiness is inspired by the true events, just the fact that the Greystone Park thing actually exists. You've seen this type of story done so many times. The idea that there are ghosts in an abandoned asylum is a very romantic idea. It inspires a lot of spooky ghost stories, and it will continue to inspire plenty spooky ghost stories going forward. It's an interesting concept, to say the least. This film will keep your attention if you're just purely interested in the whole found footage aspect of films. If you're a fan of found footage, then this film is going to be something that you may be interested in watching. You may even learn something about the Greystone Park and the Kirkbride plan, because the opening exposition for the film actually discusses it to a limited extent. They do fudge it into fictional territory when they're talking about the spookiness and the cults and all that crap. But otherwise, it's an interesting concept. Now, there's a lot of cons. One of the major cons is the camera work at the start of the film. There are a lot of cuts in this film. What do I mean by cuts? Well, I mean cuts like this, like this, like this. And there's a lot of cuts like that in this opening 5 minutes of the film, where you see a bunch of characters sitting at a dinner table, and the camera focuses close up on each individual character's face as they speak. And as the next person speaks, it changes the camera, it cuts to that. Instead of just being an actual found footage opening, it's just a bunch of cuts. And it's quite jarring to me. Instead of having a single cameraman changing the camera angle in the same shot to get the person talking, and then when the next person's talking, you angle the camera over and see that person when they're talking. Instead of doing that, you just do a bunch of cuts. It's very annoying. Though there's some good stuff once they actually get to the asylum, since about 60 minutes, 70 minutes of the film is taken place in the asylum. It's a pretty short film. It's about 83 minutes long. So that's the good part of the film. I love it when a film is close to that 90-minute mark, especially when it's horror. Horror does not need to be 2 hours long. If it's at the 90-minute mark, that's about perfect for a horror movie, man. It's perfect. So this is like 83 minutes. That's good. Really good. Though I feel like the plot is a little bit too thin. They spent a lot of time in this asylum jumping at shadows and shaking the camera about, instead of actually having a good story. The bulk of the story is just the spooky jumping at shadows thing. They hide the budget using some interesting camera work. The camera would glitch over right before a ghost would show up, and then would unglitch later on after the ghost leaves, and the character goes like, "Did you see that?" and all that other stuff. But they hide the budget. They can't really show the ghosts too often, because they just don't have the budget for it. But they hide the budget doing those interesting things, and I thought that was pretty cool. If you're a fan of that type of camera work, well, not only a fan of that type of camera work, but a fan of learning about those types of camera works and how they hide the budget of these types of films, if you're a fan of that type of stuff and learning about that type of stuff, this is definitely a film that you might want to take a look at to see those types of tricks of the trade that they're doing. It's pretty interesting. The plot, though, the dialogue is just not interesting. This is not a film you're gonna go into just for the dialogue. The story, it's not gonna keep you gripped. You got 3 main characters. You get they're very tropey too. The main dude is the guy who wants to explore the haunted asylum. He doesn't care that it's haunted. He sees the spooky stuff and he gets interested in it. Your second main character is the timid dude. He does not want to go near the spooky stuff. He gets dragged into the spooky stuff, and then he sees the spooky stuff, and he's like, "Alright, we need to leave now." And the other dude is like, wants to keep exploring, keeps telling the guy who says they want to leave to keep exploring, blah, 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 blah. The third person is the girl. She gets possessed first. She gets all spookiness, and the other 2 dudes are like, "You gotta get unspookified. We gotta get out of here." And that's the whole film, basically. They just do those tropes throughout the whole film. There's not really a lot of stuff of substance that these characters speak. It's just a bunch of, "Oh, what's that? Oh, you're getting spookified, blah, 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 blah." The exposition at the start of the film is that anybody who goes into this place and you're spending the night in here and you're exploring the place, you're gonna go mad. It has a very 1408 type of feel to it. You know the Stephen King short, the movie, the excellent movie 1408? It's a lot like that. So you enter into this place, and then this place starts to drive you mad. And you get the feeling that it's not really the ghosts that are making you mad. It's the place, the actual physical place that is the haunted entity that's turning your head into madness. And I thought that was an interesting take. Either way, is this film worth taking a look at? If you're interested in found footage, if you're interested in the Greystone Park Asylum and what they're doing, how they're changing that little aspect, how they're reinterpreting it, and then I would say yes. If you want to take a look at it, then take a look at it.